have 1 minute.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Town of Port Royal September workshop meeting. We're opening up tonight with a public hearing. Van, you want to introduce this public hearing for us?
Sure. Ordinance 2023-12, an ordinance amending the business license ordinance of the Town of Port Royal to update the class schedule as required by Act 176 of 2020. If you recall, there was a movement in the legislature to reform the business license practices around the state of South Carolina. There was a compromise worked out through the municipal association and the legislature, basically kind of codifying the classifications, renewal dates, those sorts of things. And we are required periodically through that law in 2020 to update our class schedule, and this is what this ordinance is actually doing.
Very good. So is there any public comment on this ordinance 2023-12 on business license? Hearing none, go to the next.
Ordinance 2023-13, an ordinance to repeal Chapter 19, Traffic and Motor Vehicles, Article 2, Stopping, Standing, and Parking, Section 19-31, Control of Parking in Public Parking Areas or Private Parking Areas under the jurisdiction of the Police Department, and replaced with Sections 19-31 through 19-41. Obviously, we have been having some parking issues, particularly since we've installed some additional sidewalks. One of the things that staff discovered is we need to clean up the mechanics of how the police department would manage enforcement of the new parking regulations, and the ordinance basically provides for a more sensible path forward for the police department to enforce the parking requirements of the town.
Very good. Once again, this is a public hearing. Anybody from the public like to speak on this? Ordinance 2023-13, parking. Hearing none, move to the next.
Closeout of Paris Avenue streetscape, this LCOG grant. If you recall, we received a community development block grant for a single phase kind of over a kind of a median improvement, some lighting improvement. What we discovered is that we wanted to revisit that plan and maybe really expand the scope to include almost all of Paris Avenue. So we just, as a council, voted to return those dollars to the Department of Commerce, and so we're just accepting comment about our act of returning those dollars to revise the scope.
Any public comment on the closeout of Paris Avenue streetscape with LCOG grant? Seeing none, hearing none, move to the last one.
Yeah, new application for the Paris Avenue streetscape. As I just mentioned, based upon public input in the workshops that we pulled together, staff working with Jessica at LOCOG has revised the scope. Now, obviously, we're looking at a $16 million project overall, but this first one, we basically got a waiver to request more dollars than is typically allowed. I think it's a little over $1 million. $750. And so what we've done is we've revised the scope to reflect the new plan, and so this is the first step in making that happen.
Very good. Once again, open for public comment. Seeing none, hearing none, we'll close the public hearing of September 6th for the Town of Port Royal, and we'll go directly into our council workshop agenda. And we have a presentation to start?
Sure.
This presentation is the Beaufort Jasper Regional Housing Trust Fund. Chairman Wendy Czar, but presenting is Stacy.
Yes, no?
Oh, there we go. It just changed.
Okay. Hi, thank you for having me, Mayor, council members. I'm Dixie with the Beaufort the Beaufort Jasper Housing Trust. I serve as your appointee. I'm not going to go through all this, but I will tell you that we've had a very busy 9 months since we launched in January. As you can tell or see, we've had our first board meeting, and we've consistently met monthly, and including retreats and workshops, setting goals, etc. We also began accepting proposals from developers in May as well. You can see some of our board members from each of the 9 jurisdictions, or excuse me, 8. And just to remind everyone, the purpose of this is to support and persevere the construction of affordable housing in those 8 jurisdictions, and that really focuses on households between 60 and 100% of the AMI of the area.
Could
you go back one slide, I just wanted to see who was on, you kind of went through.
Oh, yeah,
There you go.
of
Yeah, I
course.
just wanted to kind of see who all.
Yep,
We have 3 members in the room, correct?
That's what I just
Dick
noticed,
Stewart, Wendy, and Dixie. Thank you all for being here and serving.
Cool, that's all, that's very good, thank you.
of course. Again, so the purpose is between 60 to 100% of the AMI, and with a focus really on those households of 60 and below.
Dixie, just for the people that are here, explain what you mean by the 60 to 100% of the AMI.
Yeah.
So we've got a lot of people in the room, a lot of people online, and maybe
Of course.
everybody doesn't understand.
So to put that in terms, this could be employers like our county and city governments. This could be hostesses, servers in our restaurants, firefighters, police officers, admin assistants,
School
administration, school
School
teachers. And all of those other industries, lawn care, cleaning, maintenance, providing services to everything that we do here and around Beaufort and Jasper. It really, the 60 median income, or AMI, just think of it as your neighbors, right? Your firefighters, your police, your school teachers, the hostess and servers in our restaurants working very hard. So we have 5 top priorities that we've identified, and that includes furthering our development pipeline. So we submitted a request for proposals to developers in the area to see what interest they have in building affordable housing in the area. We received a lot of feedback and information back to us, and we are currently in the process of reviewing those to see what's next and how we can get funding for them. The second is project prioritization. So again, keeping in mind that 60 AMI, those firefighters, police officers, teachers, getting them housed. We have developed an asset map that shows all of the housing and organizations that are in the area that provide some type of housing support, so whether it be homelessness, emergency assistance, etc. 4 is incentivize our inventory, so working with utilities, developers, and municipalities with how we can change anything to help bring more housing to the area. And last but not least, 5 is funding, ensuring that this board is funded and continuing to grow the pipeline and put people in homes. So a few status updates. We met with each of the partnering jurisdictions, and we wanted to really define their success, what that looks like, and what their local priorities are. I know many of you met with myself or Wendy, and also Brad Moll with Community Works. We have adopted and established bylaws and committees. There's, I think, 8 of them. And as you have seen, we identified and finalized those top priorities, those 5 that we mentioned. And last but not least, we launched the project evaluation process, and we are accepting proposals as well. As you may or may not know, there was a Senate bill that is passed, which is 284, supporting the use of accommodations and hospitality taxes in support of workforce housing. And Senator Davis's provided $3 million in his budget, which we are very grateful for. The next is evaluating local policies and development barriers, and that will be towards workforce affordable housing as well. Continuing updates, we continue to meet with each of the 8 jurisdictions, and we involve all of our asset partners. And last but not least, we have been finalized and received our legal incorporation status for a tax-exempt 501c3. On the horizon, the rest of this year and going into next, it's important for you guys to understand you'll have to work with each other and determine local processes of how you would implement funding for the Bill S-284 for housing. There is a housing symposium that is planned this fall and winter, and there's more details to come on that. There is an internal planning workshop that the board is doing in October, and that will, again, prioritize our priorities for next year. And early next year, we plan to launch a variety of digital channels so we can help educate and foster a collaborative agreement with all of our partners. So I also now like to turn it over to Wendy, who will discuss some of our barriers.
Thank you, Dixie.
Dixie.
Dixie, one of the last things she mentioned is that we have incorporated now, we are a 501c3 tax, we have the federal tax exemption as well. So we can start actually growing the organization, doing things like hiring our own people, et cetera. I just want to explain AMI because I think that was part of the question. AMI stands for Area Median Income. It is a figure put out by HUD annually. Each county in the United States has its own, and the AMI is Area Median Income, so that's what the numbers are. And so in affordable housing world, it's very common for somebody to say, oh yeah, well, we're going to serve this market of 60% AMI or 100% of AMI. The teachers here would be at about 80% AMI. And I do have the schedule, if any of you want it, I can get it to you, but that's pretty standard. I wanted to tell you the kinds of things that we have seen with this pipeline report that we've developed. And I don't know, Van, you were at the meeting where they had the one that had the tire kickers too, right? So as a result of the request for projects that we sent out, we have 5 that are sort of ready to, one in particular is ready to go and is actually in underwriting. The other 4 are not ready yet, but they're close to the stage where they could be underwritten. And we have a whole lot of projects, what we call the tire kicker list, for people who just aren't ready. In some cases, they actually need help figuring out how to build housing. I have a lot here, and I want to put affordable housing on it. What do I do? So some of them are at that stage, too. All of the 5 are actually projects that use tax credits. In the business, they're called LIHTC. It stands for Low Income Housing Trust. There's basically 2 things being built that are affordable in both counties. The LIHTC deals, that trust deals, and Habitat. Because of all the barriers, we don't have builders who are not using tax credits ready to build projects for affordable housing. There'll be projects all day, but they won't have any affordable housing in them. So everybody would like us to have about 100 units built by tomorrow. But if you think about it, even the one in underwriting, which already does have its tax credits allocated, the other 4 do not. They have to apply for them. Let's see what I was going to say about it. So if we underwrote him, gave him his approval, and he started his financing tomorrow, he would not have anything ready to occupy for at least 25 months. It's the same thing, really. If you were to buy a house, you build a lot, it's going to take you at least a year. You can't, 5 days later say, here's my unit. So I'm trying to kind of bring reality into the situation. Number one, it takes a while to build stuff. And one reason is because the processes that the builders have to go through, which are pretty lengthy. And so that's kind of the reality of where we are right now. We have one of our board members, Tony Alfieri, who spent his career financing LIHTC deals. So he's got incredible knowledge of how to put the deals together. And we asked him to do for us and for the Soloco board a comparison of, okay, if I built this project of 100 units and I was using tax credits, and I built this project of 100 units and I'm not using any tax credits, what am I missing in subsidy? And the results he got was for a 100-unit project at 60% AMI, 60 to 80% AMI, it would be $175,000 per unit. That's what those tax credits are worth. And that's why you're not seeing anybody else building, because now we have to figure out how to come up with that. And it isn't just one thing that would take care of it. It's everything from maybe allowing more density in certain areas, because the more houses or units you could put on a lot, obviously it lowers the cost. Another thing might be different jurisdictions have land that they own that they're not using. Maybe we could participate in some kind of a land donation. Then there's the obvious big items, which are the impact fees and the Beaufort Jasper Water and Sewer Authority capacity fees. The county does have a program for up to 80% AMI of subsidizing those impact fees, and we are in discussion with Beaufort Jasper about ways that they can ameliorate the situation and lower the cost for certain projects. And they have a new general manager, and she really understands that they've got to be a player for us to be able to have a lot of units. The S-284, the legislation allowing you are allowed to dedicate up to 15% of your 3% tax to affordable housing. The law does require you to have a certain report, which supposedly shows the barriers, and actually the report was put together by the home builder, so it's a kind of a data-driven report. Each jurisdiction will need one, so we're seeing if we can figure out how to get one for the whole area, and what it would cost. We've talked to the COG about doing it, because to get 8 jurisdictions to do 8 different reports is kind of insane. So I guess that's about it. Do you guys have any questions?
Couple comments. We were at an advocacy meeting today and we learned about the egg tax up to
Yeah.
15%.
Of the 3%,
Yeah,
yeah.
and I thought that was pretty interesting. They also talked possibly an H tax.
That was on the table at least initially, but it got withdrawn in order to get the bill
Yeah.
to pass.
Okay,
What the
Allowed to
Senate
come with
passed
that.
had
Right.
all
right.
a tax.
So H
What
tax
that-
got brought out.
Yeah,
It's just a tax.
yeah.
But it is a tax up to 15% of the 3%.
3%,
Right.
yeah.
What about any kind of, are there any abandoned buildings? I mean, we were talking about abandoned building credits today. Is there any way you could look at anything
Right.
like that for, repurposing those?
Right.
Right now, the square footage would basically almost make that virtually impossible. That bill is focused on, or that program is large scale.
Large,
buildings,
okay.
yeah.
Okay. That's all I've got, just those 2 points. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for what y'all are doing.
Of course, there's been talk about incentivizing developers and so forth. What's the BJH Trust approach to working with developers to encourage them to allocate a certain percentage of their new construction solely for affordable housing?
We would like for all the different jurisdictions to start working that into when somebody comes in for pre-approval. We are going to need to be able to offer them trade-offs so that because even if they're nonprofit, they still have to operate at a profit, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely.
So we need the whole toolbox. I actually talked to Gianna Shaw Johnson, who runs the city of Charleston's, all of their affordable housing. She's been doing it for years. And I asked her if she can send me some of the deals that they've done so that I can see the capital. It's called a capital stack. Maybe they got donated land, then on top of that, then on top of that. So you typically have multiple players in these projects. Even the tax credit ones, they've got the tax credit, but that's not all they've got. They've got a lot of other moving parts in there to make it go.
Their head is definitely in the right place, though. Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, just, like they was reiterate, thank you all for doing this very important and complicated issue. So thank you all for willingness to step up and try and get your arms around this. I was gonna ask about the incentives, and speaking of the tax credits, is that tied to a time frame that they have to provide? Like if they build affordable housing under a certain AMI, they get the tax break, the tax credit for, they gotta keep it a certain price for 10 years, 5 years?
It's
15?
a federal tax credit. They apply through the state for it. The state has certain criteria that they have to meet. And the state tends to change that criteria every year, which is really frustrating if you're one of those builders and you think you got it figured out. they do not have tax credits available for a lot of these developers. And typically, you see developers who are in that business, like David Bennett. Everybody knows him. He builds LIHTC deals. You don't know if your application is going to qualify. So you might have, from north of the Broad, 4 or 5 developers who have applied for tax credits, and they're not going to probably all get them.
Yeah, no, I know that you got a limited toolbox and you're using everything you got. Sometimes those tax credits, I've just seen them where it kind of just like a Band-Aid where they get, and I know y'all know this, they get it, they do it at an affordable rate for 10 years and then after 10 years it goes back up and it's not affordable housing anymore. It's just.
The earliest that they can so-called flip them is 15 years.
15, okay.
But apparently, Tony, our expert in this, who's on the board, said that now if you're going to flip them, there's the state might not award you any more
Okay.
projects. So there's.
Cool. That's good to hear.
We also would like the Housing Trust to be able to step in and own these
Yeah,
projects.
absolutely.
So we can make sure that they stay affordable.
What's the likelihood of the Housing Trust owning land or purchasing land?
We would like land donations.
I said that because.
We got about $5 we could give you.
Because recently I went down, and I'm not sure if it was Jasper Station or Village Drive off of Argent.
Uh-huh.
And I saw a community of beautiful, and I refer to them almost as tiny homes.
Mm-hmm.
And I went in one of them, 1 bedroom, 2 bedrooms, and there's no way, if they're selling those houses for $300,000, they must be out of their mind. But they're beautiful, small cottages, and it's a community that's down there right now. And I'm not sure if Mayor Harry is working with someone in regards to that community, because the first thing that went to my mind is obtainable housing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But is $300,000 affordable?
That may be affordable to you, but it may not be affordable
Yeah,
to everyone else.
I don't think a teacher
That's
could
why I
buy
said
that, or a
obtainable.
hospitality
Yeah.
worker. And Hardyville has kind of an interesting situation, because apparently they don't have impact fees, so they negotiate the fees with developers who come in, and the idea is to say, well, you only pay this if you get this much affordable housing. As far as I know, they have not successfully done that yet, but they've talked about doing it.
Thank you, Wendy.
Yeah, to take Darrell's question a little bit further, to make it mandatory or to make it part of a subdivision in some way, no, I'm going to drag you in on this, that would require some ordinance changes, some rule changes for
Yeah,
us to
so-
say a percentage?
Right now, there's not any precedent in this state to mandate
Okay.
a certain percentage of development be at a certain price point. There have been it's called inclusionary zoning. There have been attempts at the state level for an inclusionary enabling act. They've been ruled to be a takings by a couple, opined, I don't think ruled.
Yeah, opined.
To be, to be a takings. So that's kind of where we're at. I have a draft copy of an inclusionary ordinance, if that ever happens, that I worked on a few years ago, so.
I have one too.
Waiting in the wings, but.
No and I are going to compare ours.
Right, so the true way to do that is for the town through you to
Yeah.
have some credits or something available that we start the conversation and bring you in.
Well, what has to happen as far as the inclusionary zoning is concerned, as Noah said, we have to have state enabling legislation, and then you would be able to create your own. Each jurisdiction would create
Right.
their own. But
But-
without the state enabling legislation, you're just going
think
to get
to-
sued, so.
To tie that all up, though, if the project were in partnership with the Housing Trust, and we had something adopted that said, if you're working with the Housing Trust and there's documentation of X, Y, and Z, we will reduce whatever barrier it might be, if you do a certain percentage for a certain number of years as attainable.
I mean, if you could do a development
There's loopholes
agreement,
there.
but I don't even know if you have a parcel of land in the town big enough to
Yeah,
be-
we don't have, I don't know
Yeah,
right now.
so that,
And the other bit of that is that really is only beneficial for greenfield development. If you're looking at infill development,
Much harder.
looking for places to build duplexes or 6-unit mansion apartments, it's tough to, make that apply in the same way, so.
When Noah and Dixie and I met this morning and talked about different things in the ordinance, the growth committee that I think you all know about, that Alice was involved in starting, that all of the planning directors are on, we are also going to talk to them as a group and start discussions that way too. Because everybody's got the problem. It's not just one place. It might be worse for some than others, but everybody's got the problem.
Well, thank you,
Thank you.
Dick and Dixie, for serving on that and continue to help us with affordable housing in our community, because it is very important.
Yep.
And thank you for your participation in the Housing Trust and for the funds that you've already given us.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Van, I think you're up with council briefing.
All right, we'll start with the redevelopment commission. They're continuing to work on the why of locating along the gateway. Obviously, they've made some recommendations to council relative to infrastructure, in particular sewer, whether it be master planning or actual installation. They are working on the marketing program. They've made a recommendation on the overlay, which Noah is working on. And so if there's any other items that you would like the redevelopment commission to work on, please pass those along to me, because they seem to be pushing forward and getting a few things done.
Okay.
Tenaport Rural project updates real quickly. Royal Palms Growers Gravity Sewer Project, plumbing connections are being made, so we've maybe seeing the light at the end of the tunnel on this particular project. Dawson Place, which is off of Old Shell, we've come up with a design for addressing some of the runoff in that particular area. I think I saw a drawing of that this week, so pleased with that. I know that Michael has been reached out to several people, the DOT, relative to the installation of the speed humps or tables, and have yet to get a response. So I sent an email today asking that they understand this is a priority of town council for the installation, so hopefully somebody will actually respond. That'd be nice.
Would you like council to reach out to?
I've
counterparts?
made an effort, and we'll see what happens.
Okay, let us know when you would like us to reach out to our
Okay.
counterparts. State.
Just real quickly, the Port Property Shadow Moss Trail path, that was one of the grants that we received to run the Spanish Moss Trail through the Bluff neighborhood. Meeting with Ward Edwards this week to discuss the kind of the scheduling and path forward with them on design and permitting and construction. Hopefully have a goal of establishing it by the end of 2023. West Paris Avenue, that's the South Carolina Infrastructure Investment Program. That's the grant we received for a couple of sections. One is the West Paris Avenue drainage that y'all approved, as well as the villages. I'm just covering those both at the same time. We're still working on the final surveys and then evaluating how we're going to tie all those in together. So that will be significant drainage improvements, and that helps tie in what you're seeing on West Paris Avenue that comes down into Madrid and then brings it over. So we're having connectivity into the Cypress wetlands.
So there'll be an RFP for construction?
Eventually, yes.
Going
Yeah,
out?
once we're finishing all the survey and ditch work, yeah.
Okay.
And we'll be pulling all that together.
Okay.
Paris Avenue streetscape, we did have a discussion a little bit about that earlier, so that's kind of plugging away. 12th Street school parking, that's also kind of the discussion of the a couple of things, school parking and then the parking layout. On 12th Street has been a challenge, how we're going to interface the sidewalk along that section of 12th Street is adjacent to Port Royal Elementary, so I think we're working out the configuration of how to accommodate the parking as well as locate that sidewalk through there. And then on the other side of Paris Avenue and 12th Street, obviously with the building that's located on the left-hand side, the new construction on the right, we're working to try to survey and tuck that sidewalk in there to kind of improve the parking situation, if you will, while also kind of enhancing the pedestrian safety. We're having people walking the street. We see a lot of traffic down that road, so we're trying to work that all together.
Have you all evaluated it during the peak hours, like school time, to see the traffic, and also
Yes.
on the opposite side
Yes.
when they have those meetings?
Yes, absolutely.
Are those the last two sidewalks on the original?
Yes, sir.
That's it. So those two will close out that original, that sidewalk project.
Absolutely. And then a couple things I want to mention that I didn't have written down here. If you probably noticed, we did replace the fence that surrounded the ship at the Naval Heritage with the living fence system. We did have split rails, so just a little bit of enhanced safety. And also, we're looking to replace the fence along Casablanca Road, that split rail, with that living fence as well. All right. Drainage improvements, also just wanted y'all to keep, on the Casablanca as well. That one is not grant funded, but we're using stormwater utility funds as well as some ARPA funds to address that complete drainage improvement system in, I think it's going to be about $1.5 million project. It kind of involves Fayal Street, taking water out of there. So that one's plugging away. We are submitting another a grant for a CIP master plan for stormwater drainage. We're just pulling that one together. I just wanted to bring y'all into that discussion a little bit. We're pulling all the documents together at the moment, and I think we have to submit that by September 11th.
Yes.
So that will be submitted then. I'll keep you up to speed on that one. Sanitary sewer Rebo Road master plan. We've reached out to Beaufort Jasper. I know, Mayor, you've talked to the new general manager about completing that master plan. I think they're very receptive to the idea of that. I think there's maybe some philosophical changes that are happening within the organization. I think we'll be able to accomplish
Yeah.
what we've been looking to
The
do.
whole idea was getting them to set up a meeting with you and council to figure out where to go, and I think they're on board to meet with a couple of us council members.
Yeah. Safe Harbor, obviously, there's a continued dock construction work. And then we had some discussions at the last meeting with, we had a presentation from Beach. One of the things that they mentioned was the lack of a closing date with Safe Harbor, so we'd like to figure that out. And then we were looking for clarification on the discussion of the contamination and what is the regulation relative to rental versus home ownership, and why there's some sort of distinguishing that. Why is that any different? So I've asked our lawyers to look at it. We've asked them to look at it, and we're waiting for the specific code section that provides that explanation.
So more to come.
More to come.
It looked like there was also some changes with the fence line down here and their sign moved.
Well, we asked them to relocate the two things that had Safe Harbor on it so you could have a better vista down Paris Avenue out to the water. So they're doing that to, I guess, appease us in a way. Shrimp dock, if you probably noticed, most of the demolition has been completed of the shrimp dock. We're working on refining the plan for its replacement. Oak Quinn jumped on that pretty quickly. We'll be working with ATM out of Charleston to come up with a new dock design that's a little bit more user-friendly for shrimping and fishing vessels. The backwards F was probably not the best idea relative to the tides in that particular area and how it complements what will be the new marina. And so we're looking to kind of maybe do the same configuration that we previously had with that dock, maybe push it out a little bit further and just make it a lot more user-friendly. So,
Is there, we've talked a few times over the last couple of years about whether or not we need to split the permit between what's being built down here and there. Is that part of what ATM
yes,
is going to be doing?
Yeah, because what we did in the current permit was the ability to demolish that dock. And so we moved forward with that portion of the permit to get that accomplished. And what we're also looking at while we're there is the boat that's sunk on the inside to get that taken out. There was one on the outside, but I think it's pretty much gone.
It's gone.
Yeah, it's gone. Okay. Building inspection, just wanted to let y'all know, working with Safe Build, I think that's going pretty well. They've caught us completely up to where we need to be, and I've got on a more regular schedule. We're still working on the interface of the old software with the new software. It's got kind of some bumps in the road, but making sure that those two things work together. But in terms of inspections, we're back on top of everything.
Okay.
Second floor of the
I
police
guess
department.
on that, is that a temporary measure, or is that?
We're going to interview somebody in probably a week or so.
Okay.
For the CBO position. However, with the number of permits that we have in place, I think we'll probably use that labor, both the city and with Safe Built, to make sure that we're kind of seamless and keep inspections up to where they need to be.
Do you need anything more from council to keep that relationship going with
No.
Safe Build, or we're good?
We're good.
We're good
Yeah.
with that? Okay.
Yeah, second floor police department, that work has also begun. Y'all are more than welcome to go and take a look. Chief walked me through there the other day, and a lot of progress being made, so pretty pleased with that.
That's real good news.
Capital projects I've more or less covered, but you do have the spreadsheet in the folder that Brooke has updated. So Loco, we just had a presentation on the housing trust. There's probably not much we need to cover there. I do know that I kind of drafted Noah into participating in the growth boundary and growth discussion. We did a pretty good job in northern Beaufort County identifying the growth boundaries, not only between the municipalities and the county, but also between the municipalities. And I think we've kind of provided a decent blueprint, but I think there's something they're wrestling with in the South is how to kind of create those lines of demarcation as to where they're supposed to be. So I think that, I don't know if you've got anything you want to add to that.
No, I mean, we proposed a host of different things that we could accomplish as a group to SoLoco this past meeting. They kind of narrowed our scope a little bit, so we are mostly focused on growth boundaries, shared boundaries, making sure that there aren't any egregious zoning differences on those lines and so forth. So we're working on kind of compiling some maps of everybody's expectations for future land uses and starting to put together something that'll be useful to the board in the long run, so.
Personnel, just want to mention, beyond the search for the building official, we do have somebody that's working full-time now with the building inspection department, kind of getting a handle on all the COs and everything that's associated with that process. But we also have somebody coming on board next Monday that will start handling the administrative side of the house for Public Works, Streets and Sanitation, and hopefully get a more orderly system in place for work orders and scheduling. And Brooke, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about where we are in terms of bulk pickup and how we're refining the schedule.
Right now, I'm working on putting a flyer together, so I've sat down with Jeff Coppinger with Public Works, the police department, as well as codes enforcement and our litter patrol, and we all identified that it would be good to keep it weekly in 2 different zones. So it would be everything from the Russell Bell Bridge on the right-hand side. Union Village would be on Monday for a pickup, and everything on the left-hand side towards Robert Smalls would be on a Wednesday pickup for the bulk. And I believe we were talking about just clarifying more information of make sure that you call ahead of time. Don't put your items out first and then call us. Call us first, and then we'll let you know when to put your items out. And then you can have them out 2 days out before pickup is what we're looking at doing.
And the idea behind Monday for this particular area is that a lot of people do their clean outs on the weekend. And so if we can get out there Monday and get that stuff picked up almost immediately, if you will.
So you would call Monday morning, is that right?
No, you would call before you cleaned up that weekend and schedule it and put it out so that we could pick it up on the Monday. I mean, we've got signs everywhere, letting people know. So if you're not on our newsletter, if you're not reading our Facebook page, if you're not looking at anything, hopefully you'll drive by a sign that's posted in the side of the road and recognize the number. So, and the fact remains that, you know, even the ones that aren't scheduling, they're going to do a lot of this work on the weekend. So, because we still do have a fair amount of people that work here, so that's when they do a lot of their work.
Yeah, I completely agree.
And currently, with whatever calls we are getting in for bulk pickups, we have created a spreadsheet. So that way it goes to Jeff as well as to Kangaroo, just to keep track of who is calling in. Kangaroo's going around twice a day, once in the morning and once at the end of the day, just to see where people are putting items out. So they've definitely stepped up the bulk.
And for those of you who don't know, Kangaroo is our Australian code enforcement officer. So just
And that's his name. That's the only thing he
Kangaroo.
goes by. What about, we talked briefly about looking at what's allowed to be put out. Have you had that conversation yet? As far as, do we need to narrow the scope of things?
I'd be happy to send you what I've created so far.
Yeah,
but
I
we
think all
did-
council would love to see it.
Yeah, I just had a little bit more tweaking before I was gonna send it out.
That's fine.
We did identify yard debris is something separate, and as well as if it can fit in your roll cart, that it goes in your roll cart.
Okay, good, good.
So not saying, you know, washing machine, refrigerator, not getting that detailed, but definitely size-wise as well as yard debris, separating that out.
And bulk, sorry, did you have
No,
something?
you're good, you're good.
And again, bulk pickup is for residential properties only. Commercial property, so they have to deal with it in a different way. So if you're,
I've seen our truck just stationed somewhere,
Well,
so
yeah,
they
I'm trying to-
have our
trying to-
truck just stationed there for them to do the dumping or something, or they get a rollaway.
Are
Yeah.
you talking about the borrow truck?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That should be for residents.
That's residential.
that's residential also.
I saw it sitting at a piece of property one day, I guess it was just parked there. I don't know if it was, because they were tearing down a portion of a house or something.
But it's probably single residential, then
Yeah.
they would be allowed to do that. But commercial properties, they have to deal with their debris in a different way.
Oh, yeah.
They have to deal with, so apartment complexes, stuff like that, we're not gonna go, they're not allowed to pile stuff on the side of the road. They call us, just ask us to pick that, they have to deal with those items. What we're offering is for single-family
As
residents.
long as they have rural cards, then
Residents.
they can receive the service.
Okay.
For residents.
Because they are paying
Single-family residents.
those fees attached to, separately. Commercials are paying completely separately for
Correct.
their debris pickup.
I just wanna, okay, good. Good, I'm glad we're kind of getting that one moving along.
Yeah.
Appreciate
And we
that.
are looking at updating that ordinance as well.
Okay, good. So we'll be seeing more. Anything else?
I was just gonna point out, I'm glad to hear you specify the commingling is a big deal, and I see it all the time. When people have landscape debris and trees and they put a dresser out there, now it's all together. They need to separate. I'm glad to see that you're addressing that in your flyer.
Very good.
To separate, not to commingle the debris and trash. That's all I had.
Okay.
All right, now just a few more things. Legal, you can kind of read that yourself. Obviously, we're looking for an appellant attorney in that ongoing litigation, so once we find that person, we'll let you know. Penny sales tax, you did receive that presentation, the joint meeting. Obviously, it's a pretty significant undertaking. We'll do a formal appointment. Despite, I know the city and the town will be sharing an appointment to that penny sales tax study group. So we'll formally adopt that person next week. But then that person, the way this thing works is, I think the county or the largest municipality makes their appointment, and then that person appoints the remainder of the people, but obviously based upon recommendations from the municipalities. So, and then finally, just a discussion item that we probably need to address eventually is, how we move forward with the Parks and Recreation Commission. They undertook a lot, but right now, I think we're down to one member.
Okay.
So just give that some thought. And that's all I've got.
Talking about that and giving that some thought, is it time, and I need your guidance on this, man, staff's guidance on this, is it time to put a task force together to look at the Sands Beach Park and to start the planning process?
Yes, that,
So is
since
that-
that
is that
swap
what
is
we do?
formalized and done, we can move it forward.
Okay, so maybe that's, council, start thinking about that, maybe that's what we do. Is we put together, we advertise for a task force specifically, and bringing in some professionals as well.
Yeah,
have
we
some-
would bring in a landscape architect, planners, that sort of thing.
And to plan Sands Beach Park.
Because we need to see how it eventually would interface with the Spanish Moss Trail, and how it could complement, how we, because that's mile zero. So
Could
I'm
you-
trying to get there.
Could staff take that on as
Yes.
an action item? How many people do you need? What do you think we're looking for?
One.
One? No, we're not gonna do one, man. How many people do we need in that commission? And then let's bring something forward to council for approval. And let's get that process started. Like anything else, you gotta plan it first to get it going, so let's start that planning process.
Well,
Go ahead, Mary Beth.
we did have a group that did it. Greg,
Greg
you
and
actually
that
headed
group.
that up and had a lot of good recommendations.
That was
Maybe
Sands
that's where we should-
Beach.
That was it.
Just said Beach Park, bring that same group.
But I still think, yeah, they
Yeah,
need to be
yeah.
a part, some of them need to be a part of that.
Greg's kinda busy, but maybe we can get him to do
Yeah,
one more
we
thing.
maybe get you a little bit more.
People that were.
I don't want you to be bored. You're welcome.
But you're right, I mean, those recommendations need to be part of what this group looks like, because now, things we may have wanted to do in Sands Beach could be up in the park, and the two could enhance each other, and that's what we need to do. We didn't own that property before, we got that swap done, this council worked really hard on getting that property swap done, and we've got it, so let's figure out how we're gonna use it now.
Absolutely.
Very good, any questions to Van or staff about the briefing?
Pretty
Council,
lengthy.
everybody good? Okay, we've got some council actions, intergovernmental service agreement for the purchase of transportation equipment. Kimberly Fleming.
I'm gonna let her come up and provide y'all with an explanation.
Yeah,
Thank you for having me this evening. I'm Kim Fleming. I'm the Deputy Director for Ops Plans and External Affairs at the Air Station. I know the agenda said I'm here to talk about IGSAs, but really why I'm here is to talk and ask for your help. Our Air Station has had a situation where we think you guys may be able to help us, and the IGSA, which is what we call them, is the how. So I want to kind of go first into the why. On base, so when we have young Marines, they, as you've probably seen around town, they have their motorcycles. And ensuring that they are safe, we do a requirement that they have a course on base. They use low-powered motorcycles, and our safety office teaches them how to ride and ride properly before we let them loose on base and in your community. And so as part of that, we have to upgrade the motorcycles over time. Through our regular processes, we have a regional contracting office up in Camp Lejeune, which is in North Carolina. They typically help us procure stuff. However, in their infinite wisdom, they made some mistakes and came back to us and said they couldn't help us by the end of this fiscal year. And so the money we had allocated for the 8 motorcycles that we needed to buy, they basically said, too bad, so sad. That's when the how comes in, and why I'm here is I think and hope you might be willing to help us procure these motorcycles. That way we can ensure the Marines stay safe on base and in your community as well. And the way that we do this is with a new type of agreement that's called an intergovernmental service, or you hear it support agreement, an IGSA. And that was appropriated by Congress in 2013. It's called 10 U.S.C. 2679. And Dave Trail, who's the Government and External Relations Director for On Base, passed out some background information on it. And what it does, it's an agreement that allows us to work directly with local and state governments to procure services that are kind of shared services or services that you already provide, of which, in this instance, the town of Port Royal purchases motorized type vehicles, and motorcycles would fall under that type of category. It also, you guys purchase transportation and safety type materials, of which this is a transportation and safety type material for us. And so what that agreement allows us to do is work with you directly. We don't have to go through contracting. We do an agreement that you can see as a draft version there that I provided, as well as been provided to the county, or to the town. And it allows us to enter in directly with you. And when you sign the agreement, the money that we hold is considered obligated to us. And then you can take time to actually go purchase those items over the next year or so. I think we said by June 2024. And so we're hoping you might help us out and agree to enter into this type of agreement and work with us to procure these for our Marines on base, because the motorcycles we have are woefully out of date and are breaking down and aren't really functioning anymore. And that's kind of the basis why we're here. You can see in what I gave you, it's just a background on IGSAs, the difference between them and other types of contracts that the federal government usually enters into, as well as you'll see a product that's done by the Association of Defense Communities, and it talks about how many different types of IGSAs that have been completed across the country, including all the services. And there are over 170 of them that vary wildly in the types of services that they provide. So I kind of am just here to answer your questions and hopefully have you guys, whether tonight or in the near future, because our fiscal year ends at the end of September, that you guys would agree to help us out.
So let me make sure I'm getting this right. You have the money, but you don't have the means.
Correct.
I wanna
We
make
have
it
the money,
simple.
we're not asking you to
Right, you have the
pay.
money, but you don't have the means.
Correct.
And you're looking for all purchasing power
Correct.
to meet the governmental requirements for advertisement, for purchasing of those items.
Correct.
And then if we meet that requirement, you'll bring the funding in to make those
Correct.
purchases.
Basically, it's done on a reimbursable basis, so once you purchase the item, you submit an invoice, and we pay you within, typically it's 10 days.
So we pre-purchase. Do you have a specification on
Yep. So in the
item looking to be purchased?
Yep, so in the document, it gives basic types of functions of what type of motorcycles we need. It doesn't specify brand, it just specifies here's what it has to meet. It has to be like between 149 and 250 cc's. It has to have brakes, it has to have, front disc, brakes, that type of stuff. And so then you guys, without us intervening, go out and figure out what's the best entity that supports those requirements. Once you figure that out, you just send it to us just to make sure that, hey, yeah, that really does meet our need. And then we go, yep, that's good, we concur, and then you go buy it, submit an invoice, and we pay it.
I'm not sure of any state contracts that have.
Motorcycles are not on
Yeah,
state,
it's a
thinking
state
the same
contract.
thing. I've looked at a lot of this.
Yeah.
It's not on us. It would have to be in our, we would have to put out a request.
We'd ask you guys to purchase 8
So
motorcycles.
they asked us to 8 from us or 8 total? They need 8 from us.
Yep.
And have you approached any other governmental agency at this point?
Not specific to this one, but we know for some other items, we've approached the county on other items about a couple months ago, but considering what they're going through right now, the time frame that they can execute contracts is, I think, a little bit longer than we have, as well as I did not ask the city on this one, but we've asked them for a couple other things, and they just say they can't do it by the time frame, which is the end of the fiscal year. But all we need is they don't need to be procured by the end of the fiscal year for us, which is it's just signing the basically the document. That's all that has to be done by the end of this fiscal year.
Can you review this and kind of have something prepared?
Yeah, I just want her to provide an explanation. I mean, we're basically acting as a conduit, basically.
Yeah.
Right.
That's where we are.
Yeah, we're acting as their purchasing department. is
Cor-
what-
But when do you need
Yes.
this signed by?
By the end of September, though I will say that makes our comptroller a little nervous because also higher ups can take our funds at any time. And so if it was possible to have it signed by the end of next week, that would be ideal.
Well, I mean,
I know I'm asking for a lot here.
No, I honestly, I mean, the only way for us to do anything forward from here.
RFP doesn't take
is-
that,
Right, is,
takes too long.
well, it's not the RFP, we can do the RFP and all the rest of it afterwards.
Yeah.
Right
Right.
now, it's just the agreement that we're gonna.
Correct.
We're gonna
Authorize.
follow the procedure to purchase these motorcycles, the way I'm getting them.
Correct.
Purchase these items, whatever they happen to
Correct.
be. In this case, it's these items. And the only way that we can do anything is we gotta get it to a council vote, which was next Wednesday.
Well, it's actually, it's an action item tonight. You could vote on it tonight if you wanted to.
It's listed as an action item tonight,
Yes.
but I.
But if you're satisfied with us,
Can we do
having
this
a
next
weekend and
Wednesday so
doing
we
it
can get?
next
I-
Wednesday.
I
Absolutely.
need a staff report from staff to say that we can meet their needs.
No, I am absolutely on board waiting till next Wednesday. I'd rather you
Okay.
take your time and feel comfortable with what you're
Yes.
doing. Because ideally, too, in the future, there may be other things that we need assistance or services on. And this is, I think, a good test of future partnerships utilizing this type of agreement. As you can see, when you look in that example of all the different ones that are out there, they range hugely from like painting stripes on, pavement on our base, doing parking spaces, doing maintenance. I mean, it covers a lot of things that, in the future, maybe there are other partnership opportunities. So I'd rather you feel comfortable now with this and take the time.
is the training program only open to Marines?
So on-base civilians can take it, but it is geared specifically to Marines. It is a requirement of them to take this course to get approval to, one, they can buy a motorcycle, but they're not allowed to ride it if they don't do this. And that's not just, I'm not allowed to ride it on base, it's you're not allowed to ride it at all. And if you are found out to be riding it and you haven't taken this course, they can get in trouble. So that's why this program is really critical for us, is it is a core component of our safety program.
And real quick, just lawyer question, if we purchase them, liability goes with when we. hand them over to
When you give them to me, we own them. So all you are doing is buying them, and then they become ours. So title, certificate of origin, they are all ours. They are our vehicles once you buy them. Basically, all you're doing is leveraging contract purchasing power to buy them for us.
All right. So we just have to figure out you have to figure out the mechanism of how we're gonna do this.
You're looking at me, right?
I am looking at you, yeah. I'm sorry, I'm looking at staff, all of you. Okay. But we just need to understand that. Are we purchasing them and reselling them to the
No,
base?
'cause no,
Or
they're
we're
funding it.
just, they're the ones that are actually gonna be signing
They're
the
funding it.
agreement? And we have to obviously financially,
So do it for 2
um,
months.
You're turning over the certificate of origin to us.
To us.
When you hand over the motorcycle, you will hand over that certificate of origin to us. We take care of titling them because they don't go off base. So federal government has different titling and insurance requirements. That is all our responsibility. All you do is purchase them and turn them over to us.
So,
interesting.
but I'm hitting someone out off a base also minimizes the liability.
That's
Oh,
what
yeah.
I was asking, liability, like if we buy them.
Yeah, absolutely.
How many
Jerry?
bikes do you have now?
Oh, God, I think we have about 15. I can't remember. I can get that information.
What types do you have now?
They are Yamaha 250s.
He's a motorcycle rider.
Yeah.
So would this be on the air station, or would this be at Paris Island?
It's on the air station. We do the motorcycle training on the air station. Our safety department runs it. If you've ever been on base, if you're back by Motored Pool, there's a big open area that has cones set up permanently, and they do it every weekend. I've taken it before.
but it's open to any Marine in the community.
Yeah, any Marine can take it.
Tri-
Yeah, Paris
tri-
Island Marines come over.
Tri-base, the
Yeah,
tri-base.
we cover them.
I think that was the question you were.
Yeah. Navy also, Marine Corps and Navy, or just?
I don't know if the Naval Hospital comes over there or not. I would have to find that out. I do not know that answer.
What do you do with the old bikes?
That I do not know. I know that some of them are in complete disrepair where they're not repairing. What more than likely will happen is they will get what's called DUR mode. It'll go to the reutilization function where then if somebody wants to buy a disrepaired motorcycle, you bid on it, or they put them in block sales.
That's about all that.
Interesting,
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
think about it.
interesting. Obviously, it's a lot right now.
Yeah.
I got what you're saying. I think we understand what you're doing there. Government finally realized that they get in their own way, and they found a way to get out of their own way.
And
That's
that-
the easiest way to describe that.
And that is exactly what the authority, Congress passed it for that very reason, is it allows, that was the perfect example of what you just said, because we're having so much difficulty with our contracting offices, and they're like, there's got to be a better way. And we have these relationships with local and state governments that we're not utilizing because we're using our standard procurement process, and it's failing us. And this has turned out, we've done, and you'll see in the presentation, we have 5 other ones. We have one with the South Carolina Criminal Justice Academy for training for PMO. We have one with Beaufort County for our Emergency Operations Center. They provided IT support to us. We're connected into their cameras for various areas, and they helped set all that up for us so we could have that connection. We've got some down at our bombing range in Georgia with Long County to do maintenance. They do a lot of our range maintenance, as well as they just bought us a dozer and a tractor for forestry on Townsend. So we're starting to look at these for a lot of our activities because our typical methods are just becoming a hindrance, and this, you guys have the capability and capacity and concept to do these types of things as a local municipality, and we should be leveraging them more. And it strengthens the partnership that we have with you and you with us, which is important to us as well. I'd rather give money to you all than give it to or give it to like a contractor. And one thing we did put in this agreement is where if you're able to find it for cheaper than what we estimated the cost in here, that you guys can keep a percentage of those savings. You guys get to keep that money outright if you can figure out a way to find it cheaper. The other thing I didn't put in this agreement, but we can talk about, is a processing fee. It takes your man hours and time and effort to do this, and we're willing to pay for that. It typically is cheaper than what we have to pay our regional contracting office to do it, or our naval facilities folks. So those are things that are absolutely up for discussion when you review the document.
Billing van out at $500 an hour.
Yeah, right.
We might be able to get that copy machine after all, huh?
Mimeograph.
Van's expertise.
Well, Kimberly, thank you for coming to us.
No, thank you for taking the
Thank you for being willing
time.
to know that we're here to support the Marines and to support what's happening, and let staff dive into this pretty quick. We've got till Monday to have to add something to the agenda, if we have to add it to the agenda of next week, right? Tuesday,
Yeah,
really.
Tuesday.
Tuesday, really, to get something, add something to the
Yeah, it'll
agenda.
be language similar to this, where you can yay or nay at one or the other.
Okay, so I'll let you look at that,
Yeah.
and then come back with a recommendation next Wednesday, and we can proceed forward possibly from there.
Perfect. I appreciate y'all's time. Thank
We
you
appreciate-
so
We appreciate
much.
you coming to us and willing to come to us.
And if you have any more questions, please just let them know, and I'm available to answer them
Very
at
good.
any time.
Thank you.
Thank you
And
so
thank
much.
we all got reading to do.
Yeah.
Council, you have an agenda in front of us. Van, you want to review that for council?
Yeah, first readings, 2023-14, an ordinance annexing to the town of Port Royal approximately 37.8 acres of real estate located in Beaufort County, described as Beaufort County Tax District 100, map 28, parcel 121A and 146. This is located at 61 Brookins Path. This is Bridges Preparatory. They are looking to annex some additional property adjacent to the school, I believe, for athletic fields, correct? The Metro Planning Commission reviewed the annexation request. It is in compliance with the Northern Regional Plan and the anticipated growth of within the town and the growth boundary. And just real quickly, I'll cover the designation of zoning for that parcel. They have requested T3 neighborhood. That zoning was also recommended by the Metro Planning Commission, and that was a request of the Bridges, and it does meet the uses they intend do fall within the use table of the T3 neighborhood.
Very good. Questions, council? Staff, done? Next item?
All right. 2023-15, an ordinance to zone approximately, 2023-16, an ordinance to authorize the town manager to convey excess real property to facilitate development within the town described as Beaufort County Tax District 110, map 11, parcel 0095. This is property located at 1310 London Avenue. Obviously, we should, there we go. Obviously, this gives you an idea of the layout of the potential sidewalk. The conveyance is a little larger than typical. We have done conveyances that have been larger than the typical 8-foot conveyance. But in terms of, I think, practical layout, and Lauren's here to maybe answer any questions you might have to on this particular conveyance, but that's what we're bringing to you.
Just to expand a little bit, so because of the wetland, which kind of mirrors the duck blind pond, and then the large amount of landmark and specimen trees on the site, there's between unimproved 13th Street, which is between duck blind and this site, and then on the Richmond side, really would make more sense from a planning perspective to give a little bit more space there to allow some breadth around the wetland, which will be cleaned up in tandem with this development, and really give some of these cottages some space around the larger trees. So I think in the end it would benefit the town. You know, we have plenty of right of way on Richmond, and we have not improved 13th, so because it is wet in the middle on the east side. So I think it would lend itself to a good development pattern for this block. So,
Questions from council staff? Hearing none, very good.
All right.
Thank you for considering that. Good.
And 2023-12, an ordinance amending the business license ordinance of the town of Port Royal to update the class schedule as required by Act 176 of 2020. Discussed at the public hearing. These are the required changes we have to address on basically an annual basis per the legislation passed for business license reform. Then 2023-13, an ordinance to repeal Chapter 19 traffic and motor vehicles. I'm not going to read through all of that, but we discussed at the public hearing. This gives us the mechanics for the police department to be able to enforce the parking laws in the town of Port Royal. All right. And then Resolution 8-2023, a resolution of the commitment of funds for Paris Avenue thoroughfare improvements. Basically, we got a waiver to do a little bit more there for the total cost, so we need to be able to designate $313,000 to receive the waiver on the total amount. We have a generalized scope, and as I said, it's a reflection of the public hearing and public charrette that we held to discuss the overall improvements for the Paris Avenue, for Paris Avenue.
Good. Thank you.
What else? Pending sales tax, as I mentioned, we will need to formally appoint Dean Moss as our representative, shared representative with the city of Beaufort at the meeting next week.
He snuck out of the room before we could say that.
And
We had an interview scheduled. We have an interview scheduled next week, or we have an interview scheduled next week.
Yes.
So we have another interview for redevelopment commission next week.
and I think on important information and dates, September, we obviously have this weekend, we have the another performance, street music performance. Then on Wednesday, the 13th, we have a regular council meeting. The 14th, we have the Reimagine Rebo Open House at TCL from 6 to 9 p.m. 19th, Redevelopment Commission from 4:30 to 5:30, which is a Tuesday. And then the final concert on Saturday, September 23rd. And then on September 30th, Oktoberfest from 11 to 5 p.m. Yeah. So that's all I got.
Council, any questions about the agenda, any additions or deletions? Everybody's good? Any dates anybody knows about that would like to
Chief
add?
is
Chief.
coming up.
Just want to remind
Chief.
everyone real quick about the 9/11 ceremony. It's downtown Beaufort on Monday. The Exchange Club of Beaufort's putting that on, and they're giving out some awards, and our department will be receiving one of those awards. So if you get a chance to come out, it's 5:30 to 6:30 on
Good.
Monday, 9/11.
Lisa, you got that at meeting attendance to us?
Yeah, Patriots.
Thank you,
Sorry, I
Chief.
didn't mean to
Thank
interrupt.
you.
Congratulations on the award.
There is a design review board meeting scheduled tomorrow at 5:30 here at Town Hall, and we will be sending out notification for a zoning board hearing on Monday, October 2nd as well.
Okay.
And that'll be at 5 PM here as well.
Council, anything else? Well, I'm going to open it up to public comment. I have forms that have been submitted. Please, thank you. I want to remind everybody that the comments are to us here at council. There is a timer to on my left, your right, that will be giving you your 3 minutes. That'll be giving you your 3 minutes. Please do your best to try to stay within that time frame and address all your comments this direction. Before I get started, a couple of things that I want to, this council wants to let everybody know. First of all, we have a lot of public comment slips for the Pride Festival. So that is obviously one of the things that are going to be talked about tonight. And we, the council, have heard for the last 3 months, or last 3 meetings at least, your comments. We've taken those comments. Staff has done the due diligence. We have contacted separate legal advice from 2 different directions. That legal advice has come back to us. And I want to start with, and this council wants to make sure that everybody understands, the first thing is we will stand behind the Constitution of the United States. That's first and foremost. We will stand behind the Constitution of the United States. The second thing, there's been lots of conversation about a parade. There is no parade being scheduled in Port Royal. There is no parade. So if your comment tonight is about a parade, I'm not sure who you're talking to, because we have no parade in Port Royal. The third thing is there has been conversation about certain types of shows that happen at these type of events would break the law, the South Carolina law, because there is a park there. First of all, that will not break the law, and you cannot presume that there's going to be a break of law. There has to be a break of the law for us to do anything about that. And finally, this group has worked with us, and there will be no drag show at the Pride Festival Day here in Port Royal. Knowing all of this now, the festival permit will be approved by staff if they choose to move forward. If you would like to comment on the festival, you're more than welcome to comment to us, but please keep the comments associated to the relevant items. No drag queen show, there will be no parade, and there has been no laws broken by this group coming forward in the town of Port Royal. So I felt it was important to get this, and council felt it was important to get this information out first so you knew where we are. Because there's nothing for us to vote on. This isn't something that we get the opportunity to deliberate on and vote on. This is a staff decision. We asked staff to follow through on the comments we received. They have, and they've responded to all of us. Council okay with that statement? Anything anybody wants to add before I open it up to public comment?
Public comment.
Good. Then I'm going to open up to public comment. They're in no particular order. They're just the way I have them. Kevin Grievous? You were able to make it. So I did put yours on top because I was told you might be coming during dinner.
DJ Entertainer of the Year.
Yes, the July 4th DJ
Yeah.
saved us on July 4th. Thank
Yeah.
you once again for that.
I just want to thank you guys, well, specifically Councilman Phillips and Ms. Brooke, for reaching out to me to have me perform. I had a lot of fun, and from the looks of the crowd, it looks like they had fun too. I'm here to voice my support for the LGBTQ festival that's going to be taking place on November 18th. I've taken the liberty to look at the video from last month's town hall meeting and the speakers that were in protest of said event. Basically, their points they were basically saying that the event was a threat to the community and a threat to children's safety. First of all, I just want to go ahead and point out a few things, and if you wouldn't mind delivering the message to them for me, I'd very much appreciate it. Number one, members of the LGBTQ community, they have served in law enforcement, they work in our medical fields, they teach our kids, they cook our meals, they take out our trash, they are members of the military, active duty, reserve, retired, and veterans, like myself. I think, and they also work countless other jobs to ensure the upkeep and safety not only of this community, but of this nation that we love so much. And I find it highly repulsive, the fact that the people that are protesting this event, they'll be the first ones to come up to these people and thank them for their service, congratulate them, tell them that they love them, give them a handshake, a hug, and say that they're praying for them. And then in the same token, they're basically saying, we don't agree with your lifestyle, so we don't want you near us or our kids. So to that, I can't be the only one that thinks that that's very hypocritical and very disrespectful to what they do for us on a regular basis. And as far as the safety of the children is concerned, let's see, November 18th, that's a Saturday, so it's not a school night. How about they keep the children at home? They can make it a family night, a game night, throw on a movie, something like that. Teach them the importance of family, because as all of you pretty much know, there are a lot of kids in this world that do not have that luxury. So with that being said, I just would like you guys to deliver that message to them from me,
Thank
Kev
you.
Greaves. All right?
Thank you.
Y'all take
Brian McCloskey? Brian McCloskey?
Right. First, members of the board, thank you for letting us speak tonight. I'm here in support of the Pride Festival that we hope to have coming up, which I have spoken on before. This time, I'd like to speak a little about my own personal experience, very short. My name is Brian McCloskey, but it wasn't always. I came out as transgender in my late 20s. I was born in California, and my father was a Marine, so we moved around quite a bit. But we always found a church. When we moved to South Carolina, one of the first things my mother did was go on a church hunt. I say this so that the people in this room understand that many queer folk have spent many years in the church, just as I have. Many of them lose their friends, their homes, and their families. Always from a young age, I knew that I was different, but I didn't quite have the words for it. As I grew up in the church, at some point, I was taught that homosexuality was bad. So I prayed to God to remove these feelings so that I could be like the other kids, so I could be accepted, so my parents would love me, so God would love me. Of course, this did not happen. I turned to self-harm, drugs, drinking, and I also had really confusing ideas about sex in general because it wasn't something we really talked about. I grew up into an adult, into something that I was very uncomfortable with. Looking at myself in the mirror was the worst time of day. I had passed up on so many opportunities throughout my life because I did not want to wear a women's uniform, wear a bathing suit, so many things because I was not taught about the queer community, because I thought that I could never be who I really was. As I got into my mid-20s, I started seeing many younger folks going through transitions. I said, if they can do it, why can't I? So I did. And it was pretty terrifying. It still is. But I had my family and my group of friends that stood by me, which made all the difference. This Pride Festival is about helping our community, showing them that they can be proud to be who they are and they don't have to hide. We are coming to a dangerous point in this country. Store owners are literally getting murdered for simply hanging a flag in support. People are calling for the death of us, calling us child predators and groomers, which that is scary in itself. If this community is about protecting children, they would want to protect every child, not just some. When I was a child, I would cry and say, if God loves me so much, why would he make me this way? Well, maybe he made us this way so we can be the beacon of light to those going through this. We can, or a light to shine onto those false narratives. This Pride Festival is an essential event that must take place in our community for the sake of these children, for the adults that used to be these children, and knowledge for those that may not understand. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Brian, real quickly,
Yes.
what town do you live in?
I live in the town of Port Royal.
In Port Royal. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tim Ball.
Mayor, Council, my name is Tim Ball. I live on 15th Street in Port Royal. I'm not a real smart man, but I'm smart enough to know that everyone in this room, myself included, is a sinner. Whether you're gay, straight, LGBTQ, whatever. And I know if God gives us each justice, that we would deserve hell. And also know that because he loves us so much that he provided a way where we could avoid hell. So he sent his son, Jesus Christ, who is perfect, righteous, and holy, not like us. And he paid the price for our sins. And he assures us that if we will trust in Christ alone for our salvation and repent of our sins, then we are guaranteed heaven and live with him forever. Now, I say that because no one in this room is justified, like I said, myself included. But there is a way that we can be right with God. And because I feel that way, and because I base my faith on Scripture, I cannot endorse a Pride Festival. Now, it may sound like hate, but it's not hate. It's just being obedient to my God. And I think we all need to examine ourselves and see if we're of the faith. And you'll find that faith in Scripture. And that's all I have to say. Thank
you. Gwen McLean?
It's actually McClune.
McClune?
Yes. Thank you, Council and Mayor, for this time to speak. My name is Gwen McClune. I live in Beaufort, and I work in Port Royal. I also spend a lot of time here just because, like, various other things. But anyways, I am a woman who is transgender, and I've actually asked the council to hold my address in confidence because given some of the things that were said, I just don't feel safe sharing it publicly. I hear the concerns over child predators, and I don't want that either. I have 2 children. But as was clarified, I mean, we are going to have police officers present, and they're going to be doing their job and, like, keeping the community safe as they always do. Is that correct? So I feel like that kind of resolves that issue, and that's what we should want. We want a safe community, and I think it's perfectly reasonable to have them there, and hopefully we'll find that it was completely unnecessary. At last year's Pride event, I held an Ask Me Anything booth where I allowed people to simply do that, learn anything they wanted about me without judgment. I had lots of really wonderful conversations from people with a variety of backgrounds. I even had a fairly young kid come up with her mom, and the most pressing question on this child's mind was what my favorite dinosaur was. That's what she wanted to know. It was my favorite question of the day and made any of the more uncomfortable bits a lot more tolerable and comfortable. I will again be holding an Ask Me Anything booth because I believe that we are a community that can learn and grow from each other and not in spite of each other. Anyone will be welcome to come and ask me anything they'd like, including anyone who chooses to protest. It's very easy for us to see this conversation about the Pride event as being us versus them, but it's not, because queer people exist in all of the community. There are our friends, our family, our coworkers, our fellow churchgoers, they're our partners. And when we try to other that group, we're othering ourselves. We're othering everyone that is close to us, whether we know we're othering them or not. And doing so is divisive to our very community. I really want to see our community be a strong community where we can learn from each other and respect each other and grow from each other. And hopefully we'll have a chance to do that at this year's Pride event. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Judy Elling?
Judy Elling, 708 13th Street. In full disclosure, I'm a member of the Metropolitan Planning Commission. I'm going to talk about the port development, but that will not come before us. So I just want to plead with council, I guess you could put it that way, to work with the attempt to work with the beach company in the development of the bluff. The numbers that they put out in their presentation were really quite staggering. 200 dwellings in that first area. All I could think of was 400 cars on our little roads trying to get out to Rebo Road in the morning and back in the evening. So it will create problems that we can identify some, and some, no, there'll be others that we cannot when you have those numbers. Also, they mentioned wanting to flatten that whole area. Well, if one does that, then those trees are going to have to go. And I understand that they do not have to follow our new tree code unless they substantially increase the number of dwellings. Well, it seems to me from 92 to 200, that's a substantial increase. So what I'm asking of you is that you approach them as far as the tree ordinance is concerned and discuss that. So those are just two things that I thought of as far as their new plan. I'm sure there'll be many more that many people think of. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And to keep it in the family, Phil. Allen.
It'll take 10 minutes. I'm Philip Alling. I live on 13th Street, Port Royal, and I did not discuss this with my wife beforehand. So my comments are totally. I also want to talk about the port development. I sat last month and listened to these presentations, and the Safe Harbor presentation told us a little bit about what they've done, but not much about what they're going to do, and I was a little disappointed about that. When the beach crowd got on there, I came away confused and very disappointed. Why do they think they have to level a site with an elevation change of only 11 feet? Haven't they ever heard of Pittsburgh or San Francisco or Chattanooga, where they build on hills? It doesn't make any sense. What do they call it? Arsenic or whatever they say is on there, that they have to put a foot of top fill over the entire property. Well, as far as I know, all of the manufacturing was done south of 13th Street in the old days. And there may be something on the Spanish Moss Trail, but the folks at the Spanish Moss Trail say they've had absolutely no problem in the time that they've had the trail. So I don't understand what their big concern is. And also, the rental proposal, that really boggles my mind. Why would DHEC get involved in whether you sell a property or lease a property? They're concerned about environmental issues only. And I think, well, I hadn't better say that. I talked to a realtor when discussing this, and he said he has a list this long of people wanting to buy in Port Royal. So I don't understand what their problem is. I guess my bottom line was that what they said just doesn't pass a smell test.
Thank you, Phil. David Stillwell.
About the sidewalks, my suggestion is town funding for a bob stroller. It has 3 bicycle tires, and you just give that to the people making the sidewalks. It has to pass the bob test. Oh, sorry. The bob test, yes. Because unfortunately my stroller falls off the sidewalk so many times and I have to yank my children out of the road. But so far we've survived. Very thankful for all the efforts. So, on a more serious note, I do want to reiterate what I've brought to you on multiple occasions. I am not a lawyer. I'm a roofer. And all I know is what I've mentioned before, is that the state law does say that you can't shake certain ways, that you can't rub certain ways. In the family-friendly events hosted by Low Country Pride in Bluffton, where drag shows, I know we're not having one. I know you mentioned that. I'm just throwing it out there.
So, Dave,
yes.
We're not having one.
Correct.
What does that comment address? How does that comment affect this council?
So, parents and citizens of the town are not trying to say this group cannot gather. Of course, it's an amendment right. We love the Constitution. I do too. We're just saying that we would love the town to change the location from a taxpayer-funded children's playground where local children ride up on their bicycles every Saturday, where children from St. Helena and Ladies Island and so forth bring their children because Maynard's Ice Cream is right across the street. Wonderful location. Just asking that we move that location. I have 3 because I'm proactive. The location by the Zen Den where the air show after party took place, massive amount of parking there. Fort Frederick, and the boat ramp where the beer garden used to meet at. These are great spaces, ample parking for large events. If they're not willing to use these large spaces that could easily be provided in this town, the question becomes why? Why the playground? Are they actually coming for the children, as stated by pride groups in various states around the country? We must ask this question and protect our children here. Thank you.
Thank you. Stephen Ledrick. Stephen, you here? Good to see you. Welcome. You're hiding in the back.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I'm here to talk about something different, the Spanish Moss Trail. I brought this up in the most recent redevelopment meeting and was told that that is the one little sliver that is not under our jurisdiction at all. So that brought me here. A lot of you don't realize I have 30 years of risk management. I'm actually an understudy of it. And I have very serious concerns with the design of this project. I want to go on record for saying this was not the way to do it. For many years, we considered under, we considered over. I don't know why we think we can go through. I worked a block from the New York Stock Exchange, and after 9/11, they constructed all kinds of things. If somebody storms that place, they will not be successful. Okay, it's enormously expensive what they did, but they will not be successful. All right, I see the cargo, the precious cargo that come down from the crossing. Right, I live on Edinburgh. I see little trailers with dads hauling them. I'm not worried about the experienced cyclist. I'm not worried about the person that knows this area and the 30,000+ cars and vehicles that fly through there. I'm worried about the person that's staying up at the Beaufort Inn that doesn't know, that's just here, taking a bike and going down, and as we get more interesting south of Rebo, they're just there for the ride. They hit a button, and it just doesn't work. All right, it's not the crossing that's already exists up there on Robert Small. It is not that. It is curved. It doesn't have, it has an attractive nuisance, okay? It's a causeway. We can't eliminate that. We can't eliminate the fact that many of those 30,000 vehicles are only coming through once or twice a year. Delivery vehicles that are I'm sorry to say, we live in the world of driverless cars, okay? These are people driving less their time, okay? They're not focused on what's ahead. And sadly, I'll end by saying you've had updates by the chairman of the Moss Trail twice, and I was not here, but I carefully listened to his words. He used a word that in the risk management profession is a dreadful one to hear, which is to say this will not really work until it gets normalized. That word is, it's not going to work originally. There are going to be people that are going to encroach this. We're not talking about a train. We're talking about precious human beings, okay? I don't want to welcome them to my hometown with that. And someone, as we left the development, and I was very emotional like I'm getting now, said, you know, we should put a plaque up. And, I mean, this was a very experienced person. And I said, yeah, it's a plaque for those that just didn't make it. I just can't live with myself. Thank you for letting me clear my conscience about this. It's not the design that we should be doing. Thank you.
Stephen. Olivia? How do you pronounce your last name?
Acre.
Acre.
Like an acre of land.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, council members. Thank you, staff. My name is Olivia. I've been a resident of Port Royal for the past 8 years now. I'm a mother of 2 precious little children, and I am standing here today in opposition of the proposed Pride event that is planned for the Live Oaks Park in Port Royal. And I believe that we would actually have a few more faces here tonight. We might actually have a few more voices raised. We might actually see a few more signatures on our petition if it were not for one thing, and that is fear. And it's a fear that many of us community members have, and possibly some of you on the board tonight, maybe some staff. And it's a fear of being misunderstood for our opposition. And it's a fear of being considered or thought of as hateful or homophobic. And it's also a fear of unintentionally hurting those that we love and care about that might be affiliated with this group. That is not our intention. Most of us are coming from a place of concern and love, and most of us understand the danger of events based on sexuality being held in and near places that are intended for children. Children who have impressionable minds, impressionable imaginations, children who cannot control the environments in which they're placed, and children who should not be exposed to any blatant displays of sexuality or revealed adult bodies. And I know that you said there will be no drag show, but I'm just speaking on what I have seen at least one other event hosted by Low Country Pride. Children are to be guarded and protected. Their innocence and their childhood is one that we as adults must do our best to uphold that and preserve that. And that is where most of us are coming from. We might not have the words to say it. We might be afraid, but that I think is where the majority of us stand. And it's my hope that you council members and you staff would consider these things in any future decisions you are to make regarding this matter, that those decisions would not be based out of fear, but they would be based on sound judgment. It is also my hope that the group Low Country Pride would also consider these things from a place of respect, that you would consider the alternative options to hold this event. And it is also my hope that if there are any community members out there that do want to stand in opposition to this event, that they would be encouraged that we can stand in opposition and come from a place of love and respect. That is all. Thank you.
Thank you. Chester Thomas? Chester?
Mayor, City Council. My name is Chester Thomas, and I own a home on 906 10th Street. I came to you tonight to talk about a fence that's been put up on my property line that is 22 inches from the side of my house. It covers a big part of my windows. It is a safety hazard. It's made out of barn tin, and it's about 6.5 foot tall. It goes all the way out to 10th Street, to the city setback property line. It devalues my property. It is an extreme safety hazard. If there's a fire and somebody jumped out, no way you can get over the fence. You go down and you'd be burned up. It also, I think, devalues the neighborhood. I'm asking the city council to rectify this situation and see if 906 10th Street, which, by the way, was built in the 1800s, and I don't know why I'm trying to hide it. Somebody tell me. So that's all I got to say. Thank you. Thanks for your help. I hope you can deal with this.
Thank you. That's the last paperwork that I filled out. I'll open it up. Anybody in the room have any public comment? Hearing none, we'll bring it back up. Council, any comments? If none?
Thank you all for being here.
Yep. Thanks, everybody, for coming. You've already, yeah, appreciate that very much. Very respectful. Nothing else, staff, anything else? We're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.